Hi everyone. I've really loved watching everyone's videos on the Mandela Effect. It kind of blew my mind to find out about it. And the more I learned, the more complicated it's gotten. And so I wanted to contribute in my own way and do some research on what I think is really going on here. You can go really, really far down the rabbit hole. In any direction. And what I noticed is that I think there's one particular path for me to go down that I think will help focus in on what I think is the main issue here that hasn't gotten as much attention as it really should have. So I'm going to start out by explaining what the Mandela Effect is, for anyone who hasn't heard of it before, and then I'll move on to something I've noticed that I don't think anyone else has covered yet, which is really important. Mandela Effect. Can you read that? I think you can read that. So the Mandela Effect was first discovered by Fiona Broome in around 2010, and she was chatting with someone at DragonCon, and they both had a very similar experience to each other. She said, I have just vivid memories of Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s. And it turned out that the person she was talking to also had this exact same memory. Now, the reason that that's interesting is that in the world we live in, just draw, that's pretty bad, but let's just pretend that's North America and South America, and there's some water through here. We can pretend Europe and, all the other continents don't exist. There's part of Europe. Now, in the world we live in right now, we know that Nelson Mandela died on December 5th, 2013. Okay. December 5th, 2013 is when we know he died. You can look at articles, you can go to Wikipedia. We have agreed in this world that that's when he died, yet there are a significant minority of people who remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison. Not only that, they remember watching it on TV. They remember seeing very specific things. They saw a funeral procession with a bunch of cars and other vehicles. They remember seeing crowds of people watching the procession. They remember all kinds of detail. So what is the difference between people who remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s and those who remember him dying in 2013? And a very intriguing theory is that the people over here with this memory, they're not mistaken. They're not remembering a false memory. What is actually happening is that these people with this consistent memory come from a universe where this actually happened, and that the people with this memory come from a universe where this happened. And there's a couple of possibilities here. Are these parallel universes and you can jump back and forth? Or did these people get shoved into this universe after some kind of event? The latest working theory is that with the CERN experiments, that these universes that used to not touch each other now allow some travel back and forth because the experiments at CERN are causing space and time to not behave in the same way anymore. Now that's a really interesting theory, but how do you figure out whether this is what's going on? And some of the examples that are given are things like the Berenstain Bears. Now, what letter is this over here? Is that an E or is it an A? And people say that most of us remember an E being here, but if you look at this down here, you can see it's actually an A. So what does that mean? What that means is that there were people, a very large number of people in this universe, say, who have been shifted into this universe where these things have changed. And there are a number of examples like this, but I think we haven't been staring as clearly at which things have been changing and why. And this is the point that I want to focus on. We've been going back and forth about the Berenstain Bears and Interview with the Vampire. We've been going back and forth about things like Bible verses, and there's been a lot of fighting between people in this universe and people in this universe. You know, we've had a lot of people say, oh no, this is how that prayer goes. No, this is how that prayer goes. Or, this is how that passage goes. No, this is how that passage goes. And a lot of accusations back and forth. A lot of doubt about whether people were true believers. But if you think about it, all of these things that have changed are just distractions. They're distractions. They're a psyop. They're trying to divide us. They're trying to divide the people from this universe and the people from that universe. But that's not the important division. We should never be fighting amongst ourselves. And we should instead endeavor to understand the ritual code. We need to see the reason that they chose to change what they chose to change, because make no mistake, they have chosen exactly what they want to change, and they have put it in front of us, and they are trying to see if we notice. And so I want to urge everyone to stop worrying about the Bible and whether it's changed and whether God has changed because of it. That's a distraction. Let's not worry about Berenstain Bears or anything like that. These are all just distractions, they're showing off, right? They're showing what they can do. And if they catch you fighting about Bible verses, then they get away with the other things that are far more important. So let me tell you what I think is going on here. Well, let me not tell you, let me show you. Now here's another example of something that's changed. Was it Oscar Mayer with an E? Was it Oscar Mayer with an A? Okay, let's look for some patterns here. What about Chick-fil-A? Is this a C? Is it a K? Is it a CK? Why is it that we're misremembering Oscar Mayer and Chick-fil-A? What do these have in common with each other? One last example. How do you spell chicken? Think about it for a minute. Isn't it Chicken? See, that's what I thought too. But if you look at these, see if I can get them all in here. Oh, I don't know if I can get them all in, but trust me. Oh, here you go. You can see them all at the same time. They're spelling it CHIK''N. Do you see that? Look down here. CHIK''N. Up here, it's a little bit smaller. Pull it towards you. CHIK''N. And lastly, CHIK''N. And look at this. Does that remind you anything? Does it perhaps look a little bit like CERN? That's not a coincidence. Let me go ahead and show you what's going on here. They are changing the fabric of the food that we eat, and they're showing it by changing the spelling of the food that we eat. And why is this important? They're trying to change our resonant frequency so that they can put us under mind control. If you remember, you are what you eat. Let me say that again. You are what you eat. And when they fundamentally alter the DNA of what we eat, and they fundamentally alter what we eat, they can fundamentally alter our bodies and our minds. And once they do that, once they change our DNA, once they change our resonant frequency, they can turn us to the frequency that they want. If you need more evidence, let me show you here that CERN and corn are the same thing. I'll spell it out for you. Go ahead and follow along. So, corn, 17, 21, 15, 18, and 14. I'll give you a minute to add it up. I've already added it up for myself, but go ahead and work it out for yourself. That's always important to do. If you add that up, it adds up to 85. 85 adds up to 13, and 13 adds up to 4. Now let's take a look at CERN. C is 3, E is 5, R is 18, N is 14. "18 plus 14 adds up to 32. 3 and 5 adds up to 8. 8 and 32 adds up to 40. Adds up to 4. So as you can see, these are in fact the same, and it's CERN behind the food industry that's changing our food as CERN is running its projects that change the fabric of the universe. They're at the same time changing the fabric of what we eat. And the last thing that I'll show you is that chicken and chicken, the new version in this universe, are not the same. Let's go ahead and write this out. C is 3, H is 8, I is 9, C is 3 again, K is 11, E is 5, and N is 14. I've added these all up beforehand, but go ahead and check my work and add it up yourself, and you will see that it adds up to 53. Excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me erase that. Not the best eraser. So 53. 5 and 3 add up to 8. Now, chicken from the new universe. C is 3, H is 8, I is 9, K is 11, and N is 14. If you were to add these up, go ahead and do it for yourself. 11 plus 11 again, plus 9 and 14 adds up to 45. 4 plus 5 adds up to 9. So as you can see, 9 and 8 are not the same. Not the same. And that is the critical point here, is that the food that we used to eat and the food that we eat now are in no way similar to each other. And by harnessing our energy after we eat this food here, they are going to get a more effective energy source. That is why they've created this new chicken. They've created this new food source for us, not to help us, but to help them. And it will be easier for them to keep us calm and docile. And that's the way that they want it. So when you are researching the Mandela Effect on your own, go ahead and check my work. Check what I have seen, because I don't want you to take my word for it. I want you to see for yourself that this is true. So again, my brothers and sisters, let us not fight about what has changed and what has not changed, because each of us, coming from our own universe, is going to have different changes that have affected us. What we need to be focusing on is why these new changes have happened and what they are trying to do to us. It's not about the divisions between ourselves. It's about uncovering the truth of who they are and what they do. Thank you for listening, and good luck out there.